Get the Cahirley. You know, as the week goes on and you listen to yourself talk and you say, is there any point? And you know what inspired me to really talk today? I read the Summer Economic Statement, and thank you for setting out the finances, and thank you for setting out the parameters in relation to what's possible within a budget. And then I read that the health executive officials attended the launch of a private hospital in Benidorm with 60-something beds. And the head of, I didn't realise that the health executive had a commercial unit, but she called it an exciting development with lucrative possibilities for the private developers in the hospital. And this is Benidorm. Now, we associated Benidorm with a holiday in the past if we could afford it. So it's part of a new major healthcare agreement. The health executive will pay up to the cost of what would cost in Ireland, but you get it done in Benidorm. And the general manager of the commercial unit of the health executive said this is very exciting. It is lucrative and a very valuable market for private providers. Now, Minister, I know you as a very honest, hard-working minister, but can you seriously stand over that? Lucrative and very valuable. And this is the head of the commercial unit of the health executive. While I come from a city, and I'm not exaggerating, somebody on a trolley for 7 days, people waiting 2 years to get an assessment, a triage assessment. That could be down in the private hospital, Kilkenny, or whatever one they used in Sligo. 2 years for the triage, and then 2 more years for the surgery if they're lucky. A city which saw the 2 operating theatres go out of action in 2017 and took up till this year to get them back in action, and still. So it seems to me that the health executive is functioning to fund the private market. We rezoned land in my time. I didn't. I refused to do it for a further second private hospital in Galway on the basis, my memory might be a bit hazy, so I'll take the lower figure, that 20% of the beds in that private hospital would be kept as public beds. That was the mantra from Fine Gael, from Fianna Fáil at the time, to justify the rezoning of land for a private hospital. Not one single bed materialised in that hospital for the public, and this is the latest. So I look at this and I'm overwhelmed with the figures. Well, truth be known, I'm out of my depth in relation to the figures. They're so big. And so I tried and I read it a second time. My colleague here thinks I'm a little bit, not the 100% that I would read the document a second time to try and get. But that's what I did, to try and understand it, to be fair to you. And then I see this in Benidorm and I say, Mother of Jesus, what is going on here? What have we learned, if anything? And we seem to have learned nothing. So let me be positive first in relation to, yes, you did the right thing in supporting businesses and households during the COVID pandemic. And over 30 billion, I understand, was put there. 37, I think, is the figure today. And interestingly, it says most of it went. I don't know where the others went, but in any event, I welcome that. That was positive. It was the right thing to do. It kept up the connection with the employers and with employment, and I absolutely welcome that. But then I look at this and I see that the statement, this document, clearly sets out the challenges that we're facing. High debt, the cost of borrowing, which is related to that, the challenges. I don't like the word ageing population, perhaps because I'm going there myself, but it's very negative. But they put down that as a challenge, the ageing population. The rolling out of Sláinte, there'll be no need at all. If we get more hospitals like in Benidorm and elsewhere, we won't need Sláinte care. We can function without hospitals and export all of our patients abroad. And you know, they'll have the added advantage of getting vitamin D as well. Challenge 4, exposure to corporation tax, which I'm going to come back to in a minute now. And the 5th one, the need to avoid adding to inflation. So those two, if we look at, and it's been clearly said, 1 in 8 of our euros is coming from, in tax, coming from 10 firms. 1 in 4 of all euros coming in for tax is coming from foreign direct investments. And I realise more than anyone from Galway City the importance of foreign companies. but they always have to be balanced. And it seems to me that this government and the previous government utterly ignored the risk of putting all our eggs in one basket, if I might put it like that. And suddenly we're beginning to look at that because the central bank have told us and the other reputable organisations have told us it is not possible to keep going on like that. And now we need to think what we're doing with the extra and unexpected revenue we got this year. And it seems to me that was obvious even to me, and I'm no expert when it comes to finance, that relying on Enterprise Ireland and IDA in particular, which is their role, to bring in industry. And of course they brought in industry, and in doing so it was very welcome. But they didn't bring it in within an overall integrated, sustainable way of doing business. I think of Galway, where one particular industrial estate, all of the industry went in there. Industry is an outdated word, rather than mixed across the city, and has created enormous problems in terms of traffic and so on. One entrance and one exit. And councillors at the time, like myself, were left with egg on our faces when we had nothing to do with it. But we took the blame from the angry people on the ground who were stuck in traffic jams, absolutely created by tunnel vision, anything from abroad good, industry good, which is absolutely good, I'm the first to say it, not within an overall context. And so, if we've learned anything, and I don't think we have, unfortunately, because we talk about the rebound being better than we expected, but COVID and the climate change emergency has told us we can't rebound. We've got to change. It's not going back to keep going at the pace we were going. It's quite the opposite. And so I'm extremely worried about that we have learned nothing in terms of sustainability and what that actually means in terms of climate change. This statement sets out that there's no analysis on the cost of the targets that we have to meet, no analysis of that whatsoever. And I am utterly on your side in relation to climate change measures, but they must be done in a way that bring on people on the ground who I said are way ahead of us. 20 years ago, they were doing the right thing in Galway until everything was privatised. And we can never do it on the basis of punishing the ordinary person who are doing their best and letting the polluters get away with it. So in my last few minutes, just what I would like to, my head is like a jigsaw, and I think all of these figures, the legislation that we're pushing through the Dáil this week, putting extra burdens on the local authority. And here we are, the local authority. We met the officials yesterday and some of the elected members. There is a shortfall of 20 million in the Galway County Council. And they have a shortage of staff. I think it's up to 100 and I've lost where I put the note, so I'll be conservative again. A shortage of 120 staff. Yesterday, the government was eloquently talking about pre-planning meetings. No such thing because there are no staff. Absolutely no staff to roll out the climate change objectives. None. That's the reality on the ground. And then in terms of housing, and we're told by the experts that we have to watch out for inflation. But we're looking at housing and we're looking at the Simon community. And this thriving economy thinks it's okay to have collateral damage of 10,325 people homeless. Presumably that's just a little footnote to this economic strategy and this fiscal strategy. How can any economist or expert in finance say we're thriving if 10,325 people and rising are in homeless accommodation? How can any economist say that we're thriving if in Galway not a single unit in the city or county comes in under the HAP or even the changed HAP? And again, I made this point very briefly the last day in the vote of no confidence. We need a profoundly different way of doing things. We need free public transport. You've gone some way with school free transport, but only for a year. We need free transport. We will save ourselves in the long term if we do that. We need public housing on public land. Nothing else. Public housing on public land. That's the message that should be given and the orders to the Land Development Agency. We need childcare, public childcare. Again, we've a little picture of it, and little pieces of a jigsaw. We're given a little bit of money there. We need public childcare. The the population has risen, which is great, for the first time to 5.2 million. And within that, the number of working is at a record high. And there's an extra 100,000 women working. And we still have no public childcare. I could go on, but I'm over my time, Count Corla, and I keep to the roots.